Yes, hello everyone and welcome to all our West Australian football fans to another edition of Around the WAFL. We are halfway through the season and we've got a stacked episode coming your way on YouTube and where you get your podcast. We're hot off the heels of round 12 of the WAFL with 4 exciting games to break down for you and the casting of the votes for the Around the WAFL Player of the Year. Paul Persick with you in the studio, and our regular co-host Ethan Roth is not here this week. He's holidaying in Bali. We certainly hope he's having a good time over there, but we've got a more than suitable fill-in. We affectionately call him Fireworks because he fires it up in the commentary box every time he gets on the air on the AFL app and afl.com.au. The charismatic Daniel Hobley. He's here with us today. Hobbers, how are you? Welcome back to Around the WAFL.
Thank you, Paul. It's been certainly a great season, hasn't it, for 2024? So great to be a part of the show and very much looking to how it all unfolds.
No doubt about it. Of course, there's been plenty of big moments in the WAFL. Hobbers is going to break down all the games with us this week here on Around the WAFL. And in just a moment, he's going to speak to a great defender midfielder from the Swan Districts side, Jarvis Pina, who's been in terrific form this season. But first, here's how you can win big.
Punt from 50, win. Little too into the game, win. Too cocky, almost a win. Risking it all for the glory, win. It's win-win at the WAFL. Great footy, food and entertainment. Find out more at waffle.com.au.
Yes, big win-wins in 2024 and more than a few for Swan Districts, Hobbers, because they are on a roll. 4 wins in a row after their exciting 1-point win over East Perth on Saturday. And Jarvis Pina, he's been playing a great role down back and in midfield this season. He's good enough to join us hot off the heels of that great win on Saturday. Jarvis, welcome along to Around the WAFL, and what a win by the Swans.
Hey, gents. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you on the show. That's it's great character building, isn't it, for the Swans on a good winning run and really building something up towards September?
Yeah, definitely. I think I touched on before. It's just good to get the results over the line probably early. We weren't able to get those results and weren't winning those games, so it's good to be able to tick that off and keep the streak going, hopefully.
Paul, Dan Hobley here, mate. Very good, I should say very much welcome to you. That midfield for Swan Districts, I mean, I have a look at the likes of obviously yourself flooding through there, but you must be just very much enjoying the progression of a bloke like Jackson McLaughlin, and you go through Aidan Clark, Rocare to a point. That midfield is just growing by the minute with confidence.
Yeah, 100% it is. We've obviously got the recruits over this year, and Nick and Jai, and they've been massive for our inside group. So, it's good. Definitely playing on the wing. It's nice when they're flicking it out to me and getting some nice footy off them. So, I think they're just building a bit of continuity and a bit of connection. So, it's good for them that they're in good form and definitely helping us.
Jarvis, I look down the sheet and there's also a great aspect of experience there at Swan Districts. The obvious ones being Tony Knott, Jesse Turner, Doc Blakely, obviously being those names. You've obviously had something to do with AFL football, coming off Fremantle's list. I imagine that you're hungry to, have a chat to the likes of Will Reedy, who's just got so much talent, and just really work your way through that list to offload your expertise, but also make these players better.
Yeah, I think our balance is one thing that's definitely come along in the last couple of years with the mixture of experience and young players that we've got on our side. Especially the young boys coming in, they've really stepped up and played a really good role. And you mentioned Reedy, he's not young, he's played enough league footy, but he's having a really good year, and his role is really, really valuable to us. And we need players like that to challenge deep in September. So, no, it's good. It's especially with Noddy and Turns, they add a wealth of experience. So, I think we found a good balance so far.
And that has worked so well for the Swans, hasn't it, across the season after what had been a tough start to the season, losing those close games again. But now you're getting on a good run, especially with this game against East Perth, with the likes of Turner, Rokar and Tommy Edwards who kicked 6 goals up forward. That balance is really starting to kick in, and maybe a few more wins and maybe the double chance could be beckoning.
Yeah, definitely. That's obviously the plan, but at the moment we're happy just ticking them off one by one and the boys are coming into good form, and so yeah, that's all we ask for really. Tommy obviously stands up on the weekend and gets us over the line, but I think it's probably built up over the last 3 or 4 weeks that we've put it together. So it's really positive, and we're loving it. We're just really excited to be playing with each other and winning. So
Jarvis,
I'm sure our supporter base is too.
Jarvis, you look at that first half against the Royals on the weekend. You talk it challenging. I'll throw one back at you. Trailing at quarter time and trailing at half time, how much of an emphasis is there within that group of against high quality sides to be making sure that you're well and truly around the mark in that first half of football? Because as you would imagine, without being too critical, come finals, a 2 or 3 goal lead at half time is going to mean a fair bit against East Perth, who you trailed against on the weekend. So I suppose, being hard on you, but that would be a learning experience in itself, I imagine, for a midfield coming through.
No, 100%. You're 100% right. You can't let good sides like that kick away early. I don't think we've been the best first quarter side this year. I think we've only won 1 or 2 for the whole year. So it's something we've mentioned and touched on, and we're just sort of building and working at it as the weeks to come. But yeah, you're 100% right. You can't let teams get off to starts like that. But then in the return, the character of the boys to then come out in the third and kick a couple and really put the pressure back on East Perth is a sign of maturity from our group.
And finally, before we let you go, Jarvis, your coach Andrew Prune has really built a strong vision around not just the young players but the experienced players to stand up in those close contests. And the fellows have really done just that and then some. They've really stepped up to another level under Andrew Prune's vision, haven't they?
Yeah, definitely. Prue just backs everyone's strengths and he brings out the best in anyone. So I think the boys are definitely enjoying playing under him, and I am definitely enjoying playing under him. So, no, he's been really good for my footy and all. It's definitely the young boys' development. So, no, it's been good.
Well, we're certainly enjoying your side in great form. 4 wins in a row. All the best on Sunday against the West Coast Eagles. Another home game in front of your loyal fans at Steel Blue Oval. Well done on your game as well. All the best and good luck on Sunday.
Thanks, guys.
That was Jarvis Pina, another sensational star from Swan Districts. Good enough to join us here on Around the Waffle. You highlighted some great points, Dan. I mean, not just, the young players stepping up, but also those that, haven't played a lot of league football really stepping up to the plate in such crucial games like what we saw on Saturday.
Well, you look at McLaughlin for that. I mean, he's a natural match winner. And Jarvis was onto it. Will Reedy isn't that young itself, but I still think there's the ability for a player like Jarvis to naturally step up in those roles. You can't all just leave it to the likes of Jesse Turner. You can't just leave it to Tony Knott and Nathan Blakely. And Jarvis Pina, for me, is just such a different player. Very versatile. You mentioned he can play down back through the midfield. Just an ideal player on their list that can pass on that experience, having been on an AFL list at Fremantle. So they're in great shape, the Swan Districts. They deserve to be where they are. And I think they lack a bit of respect within that top 4 or 5. I think people at times may reflect on Swans being a side that makes up the numbers. I would highly disagree. I think they deserve to be up in that top 5 and I think can do some real damage.
Absolutely.
Just what we showed on the weekend. It's just a good to see Swans get over the line. They've been in some heartbreakers.
They certainly have, but good thing they're on the right side of the close results now, and it is great to see the Swan District side who've been in lean pickings for the last few years back in that race for the 5. This is Around the Waffle, your go-to WAFL podcast in 2024. If you want some great Waffle merch in Season 24, check this out. Introducing the WAFL Merch Shop, your ultimate destination for all things WAFL. From jerseys to scarves to caps, show your support for the WAFL in style. Grab exclusive merchandise now and gear up to cheer louder than ever before. Visit shop.wafl.com.au today and let your passion shine. Yes, shop.wafl.com.au, Hobbers. They have got some great waffle shirts, waffle beanies, everything in between. It is magnificent. I had my waffle shirt on the other day. It is absolutely tremendous. You live and breathe and bleed WAFL with your waffle shirt on.
Oh, the waffle's in great shape. A lot of people want to get down there. Their advertising campaign, the Waffle Wonderland. There's been a lot to like about 2024. So I think the Footy Commission and the waffle itself as a product have certainly got it together in the last 12 months, and they should be proud of that. It's certainly made a big difference with crowds. Lucky enough to call a game recently between Swans and South Fremantle. the John Todd Memorial game, bit over 4,000 people there.
Good crowd there.
You know, I appreciate it's for a very emotional day in West Australian football to lose a giant like John Todd, but the crowds are arriving and people just love Saturday football.
And we've still got half the season to go. It is absolutely incredible. It is looking the goods for the WAFL this season. Let's go to the games for round 12. Starting things off, Hobbers, South Fremantle and the West Coast Eagles. Easy win for South Fremantle. And while West Coast were competitive, we're going to look at them first. While they were competitive with players firing like Zane True and Andrew Gaff, it's just their lack of execution was the reason that they couldn't peg the margin down even further.
Well, they're types of games, Paul, that South Fremantle need to be winning. And South Fremantle, you know, having hung around that top 3 mark for a while, have always been, you know, thereabouts to win most of their games of football. But hard to really get a gauge on West Coast. They tend to, over the last 6 or 7 weeks within their reserves comp, I've seen some genuine improvement. Obviously, they've beaten a couple of sides this year. But you look at the sustainability, very similar to their senior side. There's no real four-quarter football that they're playing at the moment. But I think there's some big upside there for the development of Tyrell, Dwyer. He's a player that I think really offers something there for West Coast within that 2 side.
Would you put Luke Edwards on that equation as well? I mean, he committed 10 tackles and had 13 disposals. I'd rate him pretty highly.
Yeah, I think Luke Edwards is very good at that standard, at the WAFL standard side of things. I think he's struggled when he's gone to senior level. But I certainly believe he's always going to give West Coast some great ascendancy and help the likes of Andrew Gaff out in that side. Probably something similar that Luke Foley's finding at Subiaco. So, but yeah, Edwards I think is probably more suited to the WAFL tempo. He has struggled when he's gone to the senior level, but that's a bonus for the West Coast reserve side.
No doubt about it, but there were more bonuses for South Fremantle. Of course, they had their experienced players seeing plenty of the football as expected. Schloith with 32, and Isaiah Winder, he's been a revelation this season. 28 disposals, he kicked 2 goals, and he put the ball inside 55 times. So his consistency in midfield, I reckon, could be maybe a dark horse for the Sandover medal. I think he could be getting a couple of sneaky votes here and there after his display against the Eagles.
Yeah, Isaiah Winder certainly had a massive impact for South Fremantle. He certainly helped the likes of returning Schloith and that midfield that needs as much help as it can get. It's probably the only real knock on Isaiah Winder at this stage in his form for his season, which has been wonderful, is his lack of ability to get rid of the ball straight away, take that first option. There is a little bit of that party time in the middle. I think as a genuine bona fide midfielder within the WAFL competition at the moment, the best midfielders take their first option. Isaiah Winder, if he looked himself in the eye, I don't think does that. And that probably has hurt South Fremantle on a number of occasions when you've seen the likes of Noah Strom lead for the ball. Their forward line at times, I think, can get a little bit confused when he does have the footy. Hangs on to it for a long time, takes him on, looks attractive, but I think that's one chink in his armour. Other than that, he's having a fine season.
That forward line would need a little bit more flexibility, wouldn't it? I mean, we saw that against the West Coast Eagles. 13-11, okay, that's a lot of scoreboard pressure, but, with the point that you made about Winder, a little bit of indecision and getting that ball into that forward line, it would have to be said that there's a little bit of flexibility that needs to be improved in that Bulldogs forward 50.
Oh, definitely. I don't think you can just leave it up to the Strom boys, whether they're going within the ruck or going down back or going forward. I think they personally need to play. They probably can't afford to do it, South Fremantle, because of Sloith's ability. But I think they almost have to be forced to play Sloith a little bit more forward at times, a bit like that later years of Dustin Martin through the middle. Sloith's got a beautiful kick. He's a wonderful kick for goal. It could be an opportunity for South just to trade it up a little bit, give some more time for some younger midfielders to go through there for South Fremantle, and maybe it's time to play Hayden Sloith out of the goal square. Just give South Fremantle just something a little bit different. Come finals time, I think it's a move that they'll have to make with Sloith. I just don't think he's going to be able to sustain 4 quarters in the middle. And is it better just to have those 2 options for that Dustin Martin type move?
And you'd also look at Matty Parker as well to add to that. 40 disposals, 8 marks and 6 tackles, 9 inside 50s. He hasn't got the burden of pushing for AFL selection anymore. I reckon his confidence at WAFL level has grown across the last few weeks, especially with the game that he had against the Eagles on Saturday.
Yeah, and I think Matt Parker needs to be doing that. He's been around for a while. St Kilda, ex-Richmond, ex-St Kilda, has plenty of experience, played over 35, 40 games at the highest level. He's a state representative. I would expect, for Matt Parker that, he has to be finding the football and being damaging. He's been a little bit up and down at times, but he's also got another responsibility along with the likes of Sloith to bring that next group through. But I tell you who I really do like, I think that's got plenty of skill, is Carter. I think
Yes.
Carter is a player that really needs to be nurtured through their system, got a huge amount of ability. And I also like the look of Robert Turnbull.
We're going way back, aren't we?
Well, certainly showing my age, Paul, mentioning Ryan Turnbull, who was a fine ruckman at the West Coast Eagles. But Robert Turnbull, I think, too, has a lot of ability through that midfield. So I think South Fremantle have got plenty of decent players that can run through the middle. They've just got to sort out the combination that's going to work best and strengthen them
Absolutely.
going forward, because they're obviously going to play in September. You don't want to be in a position where you don't try things and you get bundled out in straight sets or something stupid like that.
Absolutely, or unless, you slip out of that double chance bracket, which is what South Fremantle can't afford to do. They are a threat for the double chance. They made sure of that with a big win over the West Coast Eagles to the tune of 53 points at Fremantle Oval. And then we go to the second game, Hobbs. Wasn't this one a cracker? I mean, we spoke with Jarvis Pina about it, the character that Swan Districts built from this 1-point win over East Perth, 12-7 to 11-12. But there was one play we almost forgot to mention who was clutch on that game at Steel Blue Oval. Tommy Edwards. There's three things in life: death, taxes, and Tommy Edwards being the match winner, and he did it again.
Well, Edwards is having a wonderful season, but what I like about him, seeing him play live, is his ability. Yes, he's got a genuine leap, and his ability to get to contests and force the ball to ground, I think, is something that's underrated in his play. He's got a lovely left foot kick, but what I do love about Edwards is when he has space to make you pay, he often kicks goals. He's very rarely closes in on goal or has a set shot for goal of where he sprays it or doesn't hurt the opposition. So come finals again, if Swan Districts want to be there, it can't all go back onto Edwards, but he's certainly showing signs of being clutch in big moments. And Swan Districts will have plenty of those come up if they can play off in the 5 come the end of the year. But Edwards is going to be a massive key. If they can stay injury-free, he's going to be a massive key.
And he got some great backup as well. I mentioned last week that Swans could have a more flexible forward line to beat East Perth, considering that Mitch Schofield for East Perth is out for the season. The Roars lacking that concrete option up forward. They got that through Edwards, but also Brad Lynch, who kicked 4 goals the week before, kicked another 2. You also have the likes of Chipper, Kelly, and Nick Rokar providing scoreboard pressure. That really, to me, was the key for Swan Districts getting the job done, despite trailing about 4 or 5 different times in the second half.
Well, you look at East Perth, and you could probably argue that Swan Districts are just as even. I mean, we marvel at what East Perth have done this season, and they have got flexibility, and we talk about their forward line at times has struggled to kick a score, but that's quite remarkable when you look at the likes of the ability of Medhat. You look at the forward line that can boast, big names like Christian Amaduri. It's got plenty of ability up in that forward line to kick a score. Liam Tedesco, another bigger body that gets across that half forward line. So East Perth, for me, probably have surprised me that they haven't been able to kick a score on this occasion. 11 goals, 12. Obviously, that's 23 shots at goal. It's still enough. But Swan Districts, I think, just have the ability at home to strangle sides, keep them within that 12 to 14 goal ratio bracket. And on this occasion, they've obviously got hold of East Perth just at the right time. Yes, they've only got over the line by a point, but they played their brand of football, Swan Districts, and I think East Perth had to actually change theirs if you look back at the vision.
Certainly did, and yeah, they had to change their game plan. It's something they usually don't do. They love to play to a concrete game plan, and the Swans made them change all of that. One more concern for East Perth: Hamish Brayshaw went off with a quad injury during the game. Only had the 14 disposals, but his quad problem has sort of limited his impact in that game. We don't know if he's going to be out for a certain amount of time, or will he return to play against South Fremantle on Saturday. But if he's out for those next couple of games, what a blow that's going to be for East Perth.
Well, Brayshaw, if you reflect over his last 8 weeks of football, there has been times where he's been in and out of the side.
True.
Every time I've seen Hamish play live, he's always looked like he's carrying soreness, genuine soreness. Now, I know that a lot of midfielders naturally are going to do that. He's a very strong, big-bodied midfielder, obviously previous Sandover medalist, I should say. He's a genuine gun, but for me, I feel like he's been banged up most of the year and just carrying those injuries along, and that's going to be, I don't know that for a fact, but I just get this feeling that, it's going to be a stage of the season of where he may need to have a bit of a rest, because it's going to be a big, final series for East Perth, and they need Hamish Brayshaw just hitting that line at the right time. So the use of Brayshaw going forward, especially over the next 5 to 6 weeks, I think it's going to be really interesting for East Perth. They'll have to watch that, because anything to do with quads and hamstrings can turn into 4 to 6 weeks. So we'll see how that pans out.
Absolutely. Of course, East Perth going down to the Swans by a point, but of course they stay in second place regardless of that result. That was a big game, and a couple of the next ones coming up here on Around the Waffle were certainly big in their own right for Claremont and Peel Thunder. Claremont first off at Revo Fitness Stadium, but I think it was more a case against Perth of Claremont looking unconvincing than Perth looking convincing. Perth showed signs of competitiveness, but they just weren't able to maintain it. The biggest problem was, in that 19-point loss, 8-13 to 6-6 at Revo Fitness Stadium, is I reckon the dropping of Harry Quartermain, I think, was a tactical blunder on Perth's part because that left them without a concrete forward. Keep in mind, Alec Waterman was ruled out pre-game with illness and he had to be replaced in the side. So both sides were lacking a concrete forward, but Claremont, they just, in the end, took a toll on Perth and got the job done once again.
Perth have obviously troubled Claremont, I should say, over the last few years in these types of contests. So Claremont would have been quite happy to nail down this spot, 8-13-61 over the Demons, 6-6-42. I would have to be agreeing with you totally there, Paul. You look at the Perth Demons, they've always lacked, the ability to kick a score in most weekends. Why you take that away, I'm not really sure. The only thing I can think of for the Perth Demons in that case would be that they were trying to add maybe some bit more pace and play another small within that side. But
well, they put in Noah Cashard in that forward line in place of Quartermain, and it had its impact, but not maybe to the extent of which Peter German was hoping for.
And I think too, Peter German has been very good in the space of being creative. I don't think he's been old school in the fact of only one method works. And you have a look at Perth's list, you've got the likes of young Davis, you've got the likes of Catchard. These type of guys are going to be the future of the club. And I know that gets trotted out a fair bit, but the fact of the matter is they're getting plenty of games into those guys. And Catchard, it was a wonderful opportunity. So that's a learning curve again for Perth, but I think Quartermain has to be back on that side immediately because you need to have the ability to kick a score. Plenty of midfielders to run through there for Perth. Their defence in my book's quite settled, but their forward line has been in trouble for probably over a decade. They have lacked to have a genuine key forward, and naturally, their recruits have obviously been hit with injury. We talk about Charlie Constable being a massive out.
Sam Simpson as well.
Sam Simpson, another former AFL listed player, not being available. So it has been robbing Peter to pay Paul, no pun intended, to try and find a forward line that works. Unfortunately, it's been left to too few. And that's just where Perth are at the moment. They haven't got the ability to kick a score. They're relying on oppositions to have a bad day for them to get over the line.
Absolutely.
And you're not going to be able to do that.
Absolutely.
And that's why they sit on the bottom of the ladder.
Absolutely. And regardless of the quality of the opposition, you need to kick a winning score, and you haven't got the right options. Therein lies more problems. Claremont, they didn't have any problems, despite looking unconvincing for the most part. You had Jai Bolton leading the charge again, 33 disposals. And Callan England, one of his better games as well. He looked prolific in that inside midfield, was absolutely magnificent. Ollie Eastland, his follow-up work wasn't as prolific as what he has usually had, but 40 hit-outs, good tap-out to advantage to his fellow midfielders in Bolton, England, and Bailey Rogers, who played a great game as well. So the depth in midfield is there for Claremont, and they're just now starting to get it together at the crucial time.
And Claremont have still got plenty of time to get back into that top five. They've obviously had an average start to the season for season 2024, but, Jay, look at the talent down the list.
Oh, yeah.
Zach Mainwaring, the ability that he has got. Callan England, as you mentioned, coming to some great form. Bolton goes without saying. Declan Mountford, Bailey Rogers, Joel Weston's another player I think can be underrated at times from the Claremont list. So they've got a genuine key ruckman too. So Oliver Eastland, you look around the league at the moment, Blackettston is an absolute gun ruckman. Oliver Eastland's naturally within that category. So I get the feeling the sides that are really going to challenge this season, one genuine key ruckman's going to play a big hand in that come finals to give their midfielders first use. You look at Perth on the other side, and no disrespect to them or Edwards and players like that, but they have lacked at times just to have that genuine tools across centre half-back, within the ruck, and across that forward line to really challenge sides when they've come up against genuine guns like Oliver Eastland. So that's a big tick there for Claremont going forward. if they can get that midfield to really hum around Eastland, I think they're going to, beat more sides and lose.
Problem is, it's East Fremantle next. They've got the Sharks over at Sullivan Logistics Stadium on Sunday. That's going to be a great matchup and a real test for Claremont to prove they've got what it takes, because keep in mind, in round 2, they were smashed by 90 points.
Well, that's where you have the clash that we just mentioned with Blacketson taking on Eastland.
What a game that will be.
And I think this Blacketson for East Fremantle is one of the better ruckmen within the competition. I mean, you've also I think that's just going to be a mouth-watering contest. Ooh. Eastland brings the experience. Blacketson brings the ability to play with no fear, really deft taps, looks to chase the football, looks to be a part of the contest after he's done his ruck work. That's the type of ruckman that you want to be seeing, Paul, run around the WAFL.
No doubt
We
about
don't
it.
want this, tap and let the midfielders run past, and you see the ruckman moments later when you're viewing them from the side, just sitting in the middle of the ground waiting for the ball to fly back at them. So we're really fortunate that we've got some exciting ruckmen coming through. That combination of Eastland v Blacketson, I think, will be a highlight and a big reason why either side will get the 4 points.
No doubt about it. But on this occasion against Perth, it was Claremont that got it done by 19 points. And now we go to the final game of the round. And it was an absolute cracker over at Pentanet Stadium. Pure Thunder came from 23 points down early to defeat West Perth 12-8-80 to 11-10-76, despite what was a bizarre 20-minute delay due to surface concerns, especially in the centre square. The ground staff had to actually repaint the centre square and do running repairs. But once that was all complete, I guess the 20-minute delay was worth it in the end, because it was a great game between the two sides.
Well, the stadium itself, it doesn't have too many blemishes, so it is nice to see that, Pentanet Stadium's not exactly a perfect venue for football. I mean that in the context, obviously with tongue-in-cheek, but it's a wonderful facility. I think it was very professionally handled. They got the game going, so once again, a massive tick for the West Perth Football Club up there and on the show that they run. Contest itself, though, they'll rue that. I think West Perth, they had to win that game of football. They have to win all their home games to remain in the mix. They've had a really disappointing season, I think, for the talent that they got on the list. I think, though, when you look down their list, and we'll go through, obviously, this game, there has been, obviously, some young ones come through, but it's the names, the older names, I think, that are starting to tire. The Aaron Blacks, Dean Munns to an extent, carrying that workload. Tyler Keitel has probably been a player that's lacked over the last month that goal-kicking presence of kicking, that 3 or 4 or 5 goals a week.
And to add to that, they had to interject someone usually playing in defence up forward because they're missing that link. Noah Pecoraro, he was brought in and he kicked 3 goals, almost would have won them the game.
Well, Noah Pecoraro, in a game that I broadcasted only a few weeks back when they played East Fremantle down at Fremantle Oval, Pecoraro was the type of player that got them back into that contest, and they had to throw him forward on that occasion. And I look at a guy like Luke Meadows. I think when it comes to the crunch, Paul, for West Perth and what they're trying to do, I almost feel like it all goes onto the shoulders of Luke Meadows.
I think so, yeah.
And it's handed back to him. He can't do it by himself. And you'd probably almost go as far as saying that even Nelson potentially has just lost a bit of ground. Obviously gets a lot of the ball, but you also need your midfielders kicking goals. And I think that West Perth at times, even though they had a wonderful start on the weekend, 5-2 to 1-3, are certainly giving sides that are above them the opportunity over that 15 to 20 minutes to grind their way back into the game.
Peel Thunder were able to do so, not just through Ben Hancock, Liam Reedy in the ruck, 50 hitouts, Brady Gray again magnificent, and up forward, Paddy Voss. I mean, how is he not back in the Freo side by now? He had a game over at Freo, but I understand why they dropped him back to Peel Thunder, just to get him more mileage in the legs. I reckon that 4-goal straight performance up forward may have put the selectors on notice.
Well, I think the only reason you haven't seen Voss go back to Fremantle colours is he's probably seeing what's happening to West Coast at the moment. It's hard to play 3 key forwards in a side. You see the likes of Oscar Allen, Waterman on the weekend and Darling. And then you look, obviously, from the Fremantle side, Jai Miss, Tracy, who's come on magnificently for Fremantle, probably better than expected. And then it's finding a way to get Voss back into that side. And he's not really a half-forward flanker.
No.
You have to play him as a forward pocket or a genuine full forward. So Fremantle at the moment will be licking their lips to see that form. And that's probably not a bad thing, Paul, having Voss in the twos. So if one of those players were to go down, you've automatically got that depth to come in. So although it's buying his time, he's still having a great season at Peel Thunder and
doubt.
showing some genuine presence. And really, on a couple of occasions this year, he's kicked enough goals to probably be the genuine difference in the contest. And that's a clear outline on this game where either side kicked 12 and 11 goals. He kicks 4. He's probably the match winner.
Absolutely. And Corey Tregenza, what about that goal from the pocket to put Peel Thunder back in front? And literally it saved their bacon because Peel were a long way behind early on in the game. They came back, they kept grinding, and then the combination of Voss and Tregenza absolutely snatched it right at the depth. As far as West Perth is concerned, I'm going to be blunt. You can put a line through their season. They're done like a steak on a Friday. They are cooked.
Well, I think West Perth, within fairness to them, have probably been cooked for probably 2 or 3 weeks.
True.
And I only say that is because they continually cough up games at home. So I think West Perth will clearly not make the top 5, but I think the back end of this season and what remains of it will be an opportunity just to see what's going to be happening in that midfield going forward over the next 2 or 3 years. Is it time for the likes of the older boys to go to a half-back flank to help out that back line? Is it time for some younger mids to go through there? You know, for West Perth, I think it's about setting up that future. I don't think there's going to be necessarily a flag out of that list over the next 2 to 3 years. I could be wrong, but I just have a look down there and I just think it's time to hand the seniors, to hand the baton over for the youth. And if that means that West Perth are a bottom 4 side for the next couple, so be it.
So be it.
I think there's just the ability there to bring some young ones through. Why not?
It's another game that what could have been for West Perth, but for Peel Thunder, it's another win and it stretches their run at the top of the ladder. That's all the games for round 12. Before we go to our next break, let's take a look at the ladder as it stands. All sides have played 10 games. Peel Thunder on top, again clear of East Perth and South Fremantle. Swan Districts making a threat for the double chance in 4th place. East Fremantle in the 5 on percentage. Then comes Claremont, West Perth, Subiaco, West Coast and Perth at the bottom of the ladder, with all sides having played 10 games. Hobbers, 9 rounds left. It's starting to shape up.
Certainly is starting to shape up, and that top 2 is certainly not locked away.
No.
So, you know, you can't even discount a side like Swan Districts. You know, the back end of this season, really making a play for top 2. Imagine a second semi-final being played out at Bassendean Oval.
Oh, that's going to be something.
That would be something else for the competition. At this stage, though, I think whoever is playing off in that second semi, for me, would have to be playing Peel Thunder. I think Peel Thunder have got the ability to put most sides away in this competition. But that will only go off the back of Fremantle and how they go in the AFL.
right.
If they can maintain some genuine form, have a side that's pretty much unchanged, it obviously leaves a strong side within Peel Thunder down there at Mandurah. They're tough to beat down there in Mandurah, and they've managed to win games on the road. So that's a sign for me that they're the best side of the competition at the moment. I think they probably go marginally ahead of East Perth due to East Perth coughing up that game to Swan Districts.
No doubt about it.
Really, really close competition. It's what we want. No, let's not lie about it. It's what the competition organisers want too. They want a close comp.
And they're getting it so far after 12 rounds of competition. We'll be back with the Player of the Year votes for round 12.
Punt from 50, win. Little too into the game, win. Too cocky, almost a win. Risking it all for the glory, win. It's win-win at the WAFL. Great footy, food and entertainment. Find out more at waffle.com.au.
And let's go to the votes for the round, Hobbers. 1 vote starting off with Matty Parker of South Fremantle. He is playing with great confidence over the last few weeks. 40 disposals for him in that great win over the West Coast Eagles. 2 votes goes to a player in a losing team, Tarkin Brogan Henry of Perth. I reckon his effort attacking the football really kept Perth in that game. A little bit down back and in midfield, and also his setup, his effective disposal when kicking to the corridor really was a key for the Demons. 3 votes goes to Tom Emmett. Tom Emmett, he was magnificent against West Perth over in Joondalup. His work in the midfield was absolutely magnificent. So too was Callan England of Claremont. He gets the 4 votes. Very prolific in the inside midfield, very efficient going inside 50, and he provided such a big key for the Tigers in that win over the Demons. But there's only one man to get the Around the Waffle Top Gun for round 12. The 5 votes from Swan Districts, Tommy Edwards, 6 goals. What better can you do?
No, he's a very good player, and we've obviously, you know, outlined his skills and his ability for Swan Districts. And realistically, he's in that top 3 or 4 players for Swan Districts, and I just hope that he can get through the rest of the season injury-free, because he's the type of player that you want in finals football. And I certainly think he's got that X factor that the Swans need.
No doubt about it. Let's go to the leaderboard after round 12. It looks like this Mitch Crowden remains in the lead on 12 votes. Lockie Blackiston, good run of form over the last few weeks. He's on 9 votes. Nathan Wilson in third on 8, along with Bryn Teakle. We won't see Teakle again, having been drafted by North Melbourne. And Jonathan Marsh is on 7 votes, along with Isaiah Winder. Then rounding out the top 10, Callan England on 6 votes. And then Thomas Edwards, Jai Bolton and Sam Stubbs of Perth in that top 10. And at the present time, Hobbers, 48 players have polled votes in the Player of the Year. Still an open race to determine top spot in 2024.
Yeah, it's brilliant to see. Obviously, Nathan Wilson had such a fast start to the season, being shifted to the forward line. But you look at the likes of Crowden, potentially could be a midfielder's award here, Paul, that's developing with Crowden, having the ability to go through that midfield for East Perth a fair bit. And with the likes of Brayshaw out, a few more votes might go his way. But certainly a very, very handy top 6. Isaiah Winder, as we said, a very talented player from South Fremantle, sitting on 7 votes. So, yeah, look, very, very talented top 7 or 8 players.
No doubt about it. That does it for today's edition of Around the Waffle. Hobbers, great job from you. I'll see you on Thursday.
Likewise, Paul. Cheers.
Listeners and viewers, we look forward to your company on Thursday. We'll preview all the games for round 13, and we have a chat with Alexander Manuel of Claremont. Be sure to join us then here on Around the Waffle.